This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, everyone. My guest today is Jibbi Little. This is episode 3 of our series talking about taking a product to market, and in particular an innovative product. For those who don't know, Jibbi is the creator of the world-renowned JIBBIJUG, and it has been on the market for a number of years now. Jibbi, how many years have you been on the market?
From 2016, I believe,
Okay,
to 2022.
so we're looking at 6 years. So you and I started our companies. So me, Elixir, and you with JIBBIJUG, sort of around the same time. I started in 2015 and you in 2016. And our friend Noah started Collective Roasting Solutions, which is now called Eka, at the same time. So the three of us started at the same time. And it was a really interesting time in e-commerce at the time. So today we're going to kind of look at the what's required and what are the challenges in opening an e-commerce store, because we've seen that back in 2016 it was sort of becoming a thing to open an e-commerce store. It really wasn't that big here in Australia at the time, having an online store. But as we know, because of the pandemic and in 2022, if you don't have an online store, you can't do business these days. So what were the challenges that you were facing as you started to move into e-commerce, and how has that progressed?
I think when I first start, that's only one choice that I can have. And I a big belief of a technology. And I always believe that it's going to be online.
Okay.
So I always do something that in the market didn't do it, because everyone will have a physical store, and when I check the rent, it's crazy. And that's why I just not going to be these options. And I know that the e-commerce is coming in next 5 years, and because I know that I'm going to do this by myself, it would take a lot of time for me to grow. So we just started now, and I was right. So I was to start first, and it's work.
Now, as we were saying in a previous episode, your brand is truly global. You sell to more than 20 countries. So there are a lot of challenges that come with setting up an e-commerce store when you are selling to people with different currencies, for example.
Yes.
You know, I know with Elixir Specialty Coffee, we were based in the US, and we would have people from all over the world wanting to buy Elixir, but they wanted to pay in their local currency, whereas we were only, taking money in US dollars. All of these are interesting decisions that shape the kind of flavor of your business. How did you approach solving some of those problems?
Actually, I learned from all the mistakes that I went through. When I first started, it's only www.jibbijug.com.au. That's it, only one website. And then I charge extra around $50 to $60 add up if you want to ship overseas. And it's like I did
in
it
Australian dollars.
6 months. And I find that it's very hard for customer to willing to pay, because when you're shopping something and then you add up $60 cost of the international, then people find like, oh, too expensive. But then when they want a refund, they want the refund the whole, not separate the shipping.
But you've already sent it and you've paid for the shipping.
And it was nightmare because I use Australian Post. Every day I have to go to post office for 2 years. I still work as a barista. I do this as a part-time. So every day I have to buy like a Chinese bag. And I went to work in, I think over that time I worked at Kingwood. So I had to carry a big bag with the JIBBIJUG inside the bag.
Like the big IKEA bags, right?
Yeah, right. Like a Chinese one when you're moving house. On the break, I have to go to post office because it's so nearby. Every day, like there's no system. It's a nightmare. I have to line the queue. Sometimes I didn't have lunch. And Australian Post,
They're a nightmare.
Can have a lot of problem because if they're on a very busy period, it can take a month. So a lot of problem are missing item, like a damage and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's how I start to kind of like, okay, start to change. So I start to change, use interparcels. Actually, I rang UPS and DHL first. They don't want to talk to me.
Why?
Because
you're not big enough.
One volume. Yeah, not big enough. And it's work. I think it's really lucky. So I use interparcel because I don't want to use Australian Post anymore. Now I use interparcel every day, and I from interparcel I can select either gonna use DHL, FedEx, or UPS.
Right.
But I use mostly UPS. Suddenly the UPS rep call me, Jibbi, you wanna work with UPS because I saw you delivery every day, and that's how it's work.
Right. So you had a progression. You started with Australia Post, which for anyone who doesn't know, that's our local. That's the national postal system here. USPS in the US, and various other things around the world. But that's our government mailing service, and it is the shittiest postal system. It compares to the US system, I gotta say, but it is bad and it is expensive over here.
Yeah, very expensive for international.
Especially for international. And so then you decided to go, were you using Shopify or Squarespace at the time for your e-commerce store?
Okay. I use Wix, the most.
Wix.
Not super cheap, but affordable over that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was your shipping service through Wix or was it separate to Wix?
Separate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We use Shopify for Alexa, and it had integrated services within it as plugins, which made it really helpful because we could integrate our UPS account with Shopify. We could integrate our USPS account with Shopify at the time, and it kind of made it a little bit seamless, but it took, I think it was the first 3 years they didn't have that integration in the US, and then when they had the integration it made it much easier. But these are the different things that develop for you as an entrepreneur. I mean, there's no school to figure this shit out, is there? You have to learn it all yourself. So you then progress to is it e-parcel called, or interparcel?
For international interparcel, but I still use Australian Post for domestic.
Right.
But it would be the best, easy to track. Yeah.
Right. And so then because your volume keeps growing, you don't have to go through a third party.
No, they call me. Come to my house.
Right. And so then, and you're doing all of this from home, right? You're working out of your own apartment.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
And I work alone, and that's all I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
mostly
a company
I outsource, and then
Yep. Right. And so then when you're starting to set up your e-commerce business, do you learn how to design the website yourself and run the e-commerce store yourself and do all the financing yourself? Everything was just you?
Yeah, everything by myself. Yeah, that's why it's a bit striking, but at first it's not super looks beautiful because I make things by myself. So this would be the first logo I made. So Jibbi Little and the bird.
Bring it a bit closer to the camera. I think that looks awesome. I remember seeing that logo.
Yeah, it's easy. You just put, put the bird like silly. I mean, but I think it's minimalism, so that only how I can make it.
Right. And it's so important for people to understand, like, this is how it is for all entrepreneurs in all sectors, not just in the coffee sector. When you decide that you're going to do this and you decide you're going to put a product into the market, you have to make do. You have to figure out how to make it happen. You know, and if you can't afford a designer to create a logo for a few $1,000s, you have to do it yourself. That's it. There's no other. You have to work hard and figure it out yourself, right?
Yeah. And now later on, the problems start to come because now someone we get contact from someone that, Jibbi, do you realize that your names is already been registered in China market with this particular logo? It's gone.
So the exact logo is trademarked by somebody else in another country.
Yes. So they register two. One as a symbol. So the whole Jibbi Little with the bird and my name already been registered since 2018. Yes.
So in the next episode, we're going to talk about how the Jibbi Jug has been counterfeited and how other people have taken your brand and registered it as their own. And this has become a huge nightmare and a real challenge for you, hasn't it?
Yes, correct.
So we're going to talk about that in the next episode of the podcast. Awesome. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.